Alright, check it. Welcome back to another Blackbook session, everyone. I laid down this piece for a fellow writer who goes by the name of Lotus. So without further ado, let's jump into the breakdown. I kicked off the sketch using a baby blue Sharpie. I did my usual L and O. Like always, I added some whips flowing with the rhythm of the letters. On the T, I added some motion to it. I didn't really want it looking too basic, so the bottom bar got a little jerk to it. The T was cool. It was looking like it was in a stance. The U was usual. I had the bottom whip of the letter similar to the bottom portion of the L to at least have some symmetry up in the mix. The S was kind of tough for me, I'm not gonna front. Simply because I wanted it to have similarities to the L, but I found it kind of complicated to have some areas of the letters aligned. So I just gave it some rhythm and added some whips in the mix as well. I also kept it the same size as the L and T. The O and U are a little smaller if you compare them, apart from the exaggerated whip on the U. Exclude that detail to see what I'm saying. Using that same baby blue Sharpie, I started filling in the top portion of the L. I noticed the marker was running low, so I didn't want to have this color in a random spot on the L, so I added it to the S as well. I then decided to pick up a true blue prism marker and fill in the rest of the letters with that color instead. In the thicker areas of the letters, I used the chisel nib to make the filling process a bit quicker. This was basically just a solid filling, nothing too fancy, but still a dope color. I used a mulberry prism marker to add my 3D. I added the vantage point for the 3D at the bottom center of the page, so I gathered up every corner of the letters and had them all going towards that vantage point. I tried something new with the 3D. Instead of cutting them off at around half an inch, I followed through with the line all the way towards the vantage point. This 3D effect was tight. I liked how it made the letters seem as if they were coming towards me. I went ahead and filled everything in to see what I was going to be working with. Also, I had traced around the letters because I thought I was going to use this color as the outline, but that didn't end up happening. I started filling in the background of the page with the gray Tombow ABT water-based marker. These markers are cool, I just don't like how they leave streaks. Anyways, I filled up the whole page this color and it was tight. I'm not gonna front, the colors from the previous Blackbook session I did for the homie Blur inspired me on this piece. I used the navy blue Sharpie to actually outline the letters. I wanted the outline real bold and didn't want to use black. I went around each of the letters and outlined their physique only, and I outlined the 3D as well to bring everything together. I added lines inside of the 3D, and these lines stem from the physique of the letters and outline. I'm not too sure if I was rocking with this though. I personally felt like it was unnecessary. Using a navy blue Molotov 1.5mm nib, I started applying my inner details. I added cuts to the letters where parts of the letters collided. I also got the whip sharp and precise. Lastly, for the details, I added some deep cuts and cracks spread out inside of the letters. I wanted that raw and gritty effect on the letters. So far though, everything was looking good. Using a zinc yellow Molotov, I started outer outlining the outside of my letters in 3D. The Tombow ABT water-based marker was kind of eating up the ink, so I added like 2 layers of this outer outline. I added a couple of lightning lines just to see if I was rocking with them. I was a little unsure about them, so I let them be for the moment. With the pink Molotov marker, I started adding these lines inside of the 3D to add some life in there. These lines ran with the physique of the letters along the top areas inside of the 3D. Y'all catch my drift? I added these lines and felt whatever about them honestly, so I just let them be. It did add life into the 3D however. I started adding my highlights using a white Molotov 1.5mm nib. I kept the highlights really subtle and thin as they ran across the top portion of the letters. I'm gonna try my best to explain this. Since my 3D was all going down towards the center of the page, the highlights of my letters variated. So check it. I kept the highlights all along the top of all of the letters, but on the L and O, I added highlights to the left side of them. On the U and S, highlights got added to the right side of the letters, instead of on the left like the L and the U. Now the T on the center of the letter only had highlights on the top since it was directly on top of the vantage point, since the vantage point of the 3D variated. I hope this makes sense. If it doesn't, let me know in the comments so I could really clear the picture. With the zinc yellow Molotov, I went back to my outline and decided on adding lightning all throughout of the background. These are basically thin random lines flowing along and over letters portraying the lightning. I used the splat technique very lightly to add some more effect. Then, with the white Molotov 1.5mm nib, I traced inside of the thin yellow lines, following them however and wherever they ran along. This step is what gives it its lightning effect. It's really important to implement. That's also why I say the 1.5mm nib Molotov is an important tool to have. It works wonders, for real, y'all. I personally wasn't rocking with the details I added inside of the 3D, so to enhance things, I ran along the lines again, and since the Molotov's a paint marker, once it hits the paper it takes like 5 to 7 seconds to dry. So within that time, I smeared the lines with my finger towards the vantage point of the 3D to add a fading effect, a raw one at least. Then I started cleaning up the physique of my letters to not have the details in the 3D so sloppy. I was rocking with how everything was looking now. I added a couple stars spread out on the letters and page. I like doing these, and with this background looking like it's in the sky, I felt like it would suit it really good. Finally, I added my tags. I kept these thicker and not as crazy and stylistic as usual. I just wanted to try something new. I threw up the homie Lotus, the clique, myself, and the channel. In retrospect, I think if I added some stylistic tags, this would have looked fly, raw, and gritty. Fuck it though, we live and we learn. That was the finished product for the homie Lotus. My boy actually reached out through email and showed some love. I thought that was dope, so I got to work and had a little session. I'm glad I experimented a little more on this session to show you guys that it's all good to try things. I hope y'all enjoyed the walkthrough of this piece and picked up a thing or two. If anyone wants to get in contact with me, I'll leave my email in the description. Until next time, keep writing, y'all. Peace.